All right, welcome to the Fantasy Football Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Blake Randall, with my co-host, Jesse Geary, and our other guest, Sean Morgan.
What's going on, y'all?
All right, so what we're going to talk about, we're going to continue on with the 4 p.m. games, the Sunday night game and the Monday night game, and then we're going to talk about playoff strategy, thoughts, as you head into weeks 14, 15, 16, and maybe for some of you, week 17. So, continuing on our matchups, let's talk about the next matchup the first 4 p.m. matchup that we're going to talk about is the Cleveland Browns at the Chargers.
Start all your Chargers.
Yeah, start all Chargers. It's pretty simple to say. Start all Chargers. So we'll just kind of touch on the Browns. Start, sit, Deshaun Kaiser.
Sit.
Great
pass defense.
But, yeah, I'd say him.
Crowell, Duke Johnson.
I like them both as flexes, honestly. Both of them wouldn't be bad at flex.
The idea of both of them, because the Chargers have bad run defense, they both sound good. I think Duke Johnson has more upside because the game script's going to match him because they're going to be down big.
Yeah, but, Isaiah Crowell, he could be the type to take over as far as rushing. And San Diego, I love the matchup for San Diego. It might take San Diego a second to finally just turn it up on them.
Yeah. They're the fifth worst against running backs.
Corey Coleman, Josh Gordon.
Don't start Gordon because I haven't seen nothing yet. I'm super excited. I can't wait to see what he could do. Just to see him on the field, after all the rehabilitation and everything, he's really changed his life. And I think he's a good story. I really like Josh Gordon. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I got him on my team.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing what Josh Gordon does. I wouldn't start him just yet because when he was leading the league in receiving, he had Hoyer as his quarterback. And this is Deshaun Kaiser. I like to think Hoyer was a little bit better at the time. Yeah. And especially with so many years layoffs, I wouldn't definitely touch him. I really wouldn't start Corey Coleman yet either. Just that right now, I think kind of that whole receiving core is a little lost right now, and I don't like either the receivers, honestly, especially with Corey Coleman coming off injury and Josh Gordon just having such a long layoff.
I think you can start Coleman if you as a flex. That's about it. Just because I think Josh Gordon will demand attention. Running game's going to do a little bit, and then I think they're playing catch up. He's going to be Kaiser's guy, and him and Kaiser have a good rapport anyway. So.
Yeah, I'm with you all on most of this stuff. Gordon sit, wait and see what happens. He's been out of football since 2014, which is just crazy to think that it's already been that long. It's going to it could make for a great comeback story. Coleman, flex play at most. I just think it's just going to be a tough matchup for them in terms of passing the ball too. And Kaiser I think he's just going to get rattled by Bosa and Ingram. Yeah, and Chargers. I don't even need to talk about the Chargers. If you got a Chargers player on your team, you're going to play him at some.
Start them all.
Start them all. You got to
talk about
deep. If you're in a deep league, if you got like Travis Benjamin, he's a good deep play too. So, all right, next game, Giants at the Raiders.
Jenkins is on IR. Giants defense wasn't doing a whole lot anyways. The Geno Smith project. I don't really like any Giants. I kind of want to wait and see with the offense. Maybe, Darkwell, yeah. Ingram, yeah. That's about it.
For me personally, I feel like Ingram's a guy Geno Smith's going to rely on. Tight ends are always a safety blanket. Sterling Shepard's the best receiver on that team, and he's pretty much the only option at receiver on that team that's good at creating any space. Creating space from any defender. Flex play for Shepard for me. Ingram's a start for me. Geno Smith's a sit. Running backs are a sit. Defense is a sit.
I think you'd be safe to start Darkwa at flex. It's kind of an interesting matchup. Both starting receivers are out. When you say both the 1 and 2 receivers for both teams are out, so it's honestly an interesting matchup. Now I'm thinking about it. Geno Smith, he couldn't be the old West Virginia Geno. He wasn't that bad at the Jets as a rookie, in my opinion.
Good. Yeah.
The matchup, so. I don't know. I kind of see, even though I think I got Raiders winning this game, Derek Carr, I think, is going to be too much for him regardless. But I do think Darkwood could be a safe start to me. And Ingram, I would definitely start Ingram.
Yeah, I'm saying like 31-13-ish type of game, Oakland.
So even despite Derek Carr's poor play this season, though, you would still start him?
Yeah, Derek Carr's been pretty solid unless he's playing against really hot teams. So, still Derek Carr to me. I start Derek Carr.
All right. Moving on. Panthers at the Saints.
You want to talk about any Raiders?
Oh, well, I mean, I know. I feel like we already kind of touched on them just previously, though.
I was just wondering
already.
about like those receivers. You know, they kind of make it.
Well, basically, they got to have someone to throw to. There's no Crab.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's no Crabtree. Mark Cooper's out.
Yeah.
Cordarrelle Patterson. And
do you feel comfortable starting Seth Roberts?
No.
Do you feel comfortable starting Patterson?
No.
How about Cook?
Yes, Jared Cook. Yes.
How about Lynch? Beast mode.
Flex. Well, yeah, he's a one. If you have him on your team, he's one of your top 2 running backs, probably more than likely.
Around what rank would you think you would have Carr with that matchup?
I'm gonna say top. I'm gonna say he's a top 15 quarterback. I say he's in that 11 to 15 range.
I agree.
Yeah, I kind of agree with both of you all. If you had, you had to have a waiver wire pickup for your flex, and you're debating between Cordarrelle Patterson and Seth Roberts. I mean, you can flip a coin, really, but I would just pick Cordarrelle just because of the big play.
Yeah.
That's really the only reason.
Athletic. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, he's pretty much like their third receiver on that team, too.
Yeah, he has been. He's been productive, and it's just a small, sample size.
Mm-hmm. So, and then, defense, you could possibly stream the Raiders' defense. I know they haven't been great at all, but I think this is the week. If you want to have the Raiders' defense on your team, this is the week to do it.
God, they're so bad. I wouldn't try it. There's somebody out there better than that.
Yeah, it just depends which Geno Smith shows up. Because, I feel like Geno Smith, when he signed with him, he goes, if I get the chance to play, I got Odell to throw to, I got Brandon Marshall who I've already been playing with, and blah, blah, blah.
Just hopefully he read the playbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just hoping he read the playbook and didn't just think to himself, well, yeah, Eli's got to start for the rest of the season. I'm just going to sit back and wait.
Right.
All right, so here, how about this?
Sure.
What are the odds of this? If Geno Smith has a bad game, say by comes halftime, he already has 3 turnovers, do you think they sub him out and put Webb in or bring Eli back in?
3 turnovers, or is this a Nathan Peterman example?
I'm going to say
3.
I'll say 3.
Are they down 21?
Don't worry about the score. Just say 3 turnovers. Poor play, 3 turnovers.
In the first half?
Yeah.
They keep Geno in, I think.
Regardless, if I'm Eli, I'm not coming in. I'm going to be like, no, you ended my streak.
Right.
Just because I said I wouldn't start if I ain't finishing doesn't mean I'm going to just sit and finish.
And if McAdoo's going to stand by what he...
Yeah, there's no way I'm playing if I'm Eli.
Yeah, and McAdoo's got... if you start him, you got to finish the game with him after the situation that it's gone through. So.
All right. Moving on to our next 4 o'clock game.
Yeah.
This one should be a fun one, in my opinion. Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints.
I'm really excited for this game. Divisional game, power running offense, and stopping the run. Powerful defense stopping the run. So they're both top. Well, the Saints are the best rushing team, and the Panthers are, I think, 3rd best against stopping the run. So I'm really excited to see how this works out. I think it's going to work out in the Saints' favor.
It's going to be a fun matchup. So let's talk about Panthers players real quick. Cam Newton, sit.
Starting because of his ability to rush.
Yeah, I'm starting Cam. I'm not 100% sold on the Saints defense just yet. I do love their cornerback, but other than that, I'm definitely starting Cam.
I'm looking to see if Lattimore is playing as well. I know he's questionable. I'm not sure that he's been ruled out or not. If he rules it out, then I'm even more confident that Cam can get it done. It is scary, though. Cam played New Orleans at home in Week 3. That was kind of when he was struggling, just coming off shoulder surgery. Had 167 yards and only 16 rush yards, so he only finished with 8.
I feel like Cam's starting to slowly feel like his old self again, though.
Yeah,
too.
He's rushing. He's running the ball a lot. There is a lot of play. Not play action, but read option, and a lot of trickiness with McCaffrey.
That's what makes Cam dangerous, though, too.
It is.
Running back, so McCaffrey, Stewart?
Oh, McCaffrey all day. I'm starting McCaffrey. I would probably sit Jonathan Stewart unless you need him. I mean, unless you need him as a low flex. That's no way, though. McCaffrey gets a start all day.
I agree.
And Funches is pretty much the only reliable wide receiver target you're going to start.
I'm
all in on Funches.
Yeah, I don't start
at this from here on out. I'm all in on Funches.
Yeah.
Greg Olson's more than likely probably going to be out this week. I mean, he's out. Panthers defense, I'm not a fan of this week. I think this is one of the only weeks the rest of the season for the Panthers defense I'm not a fan of. Just because how
they got a good matchup going forward, but this is not a good one for them.
Yeah. All right, now here's a good one right here. So we'll talk about the Saints. I mean, we're not going to talk about the running backs because we'll probably all say the same thing about the running backs. You know,
they're great.
Yeah, they're great. You're going to start both running backs. Drew Brees, start or sit?
What is Drew Brees' stat line for this game? If they are forced, and this could be a defense that could slow the running game. I think it's one of those things you slow, you don't stop. Drew Brees maybe has to make.
Well, here's the thing though. Here's a little stat for you though. Since the running back group for the Saints has become the feature of that offense. Drew Brees has been his last 6 games. He's been averaging 285 pass yards and just 1 touchdown per game.
Then you set him because it's a divisional game, and I don't see him getting anything higher than that. I mean, if you have someone, it depends on who your other quarterback is, or if you have another quarterback. I think he's probably going to be middle of the pack among your starters this week. If you have somebody who you're feeling better as a stream option, start them instead. Because, we mentioned news and notes last episode that Charles Johnson suspended. He's a big part of their run stopping unit. He's a huge part of their pass rush unit. That's a Pro Bowl player missing off a great defense. So that's not very easy to fill.
Personally, I think in order for Saints to win this game, they're going to need Drew Brees. So I think I would start Drew Brees personally. I see, honestly, I don't know why. I just see that typical come down to the Super Bowl. It's going to be the typical. You've seen it already before with Peyton Manning. Drew Brees is going to be holding up the Lombardi, and he's going to go out on the perfect ride. I can see that. The defense is playing well. You got the run. Everything's just right now to me is all in for Drew Brees' favor right now.
The only thing that's missing is for him to get hot.
Yeah, and that's a quarterback you do not want to sleep on.
Yeah.
Do you like the Saints receivers at all on this one, Michael Thomas and Ted Ginn?
I think they're both flex appeal, wide receiver 2 appeal. Thomas more so because Thomas is targeted no matter what. Actually, their tight end is out this game too with injury. Who's their big? Yeah, Josh Hill could be a sleeper.
He might be sleepy when he's playing.
He could be. Nothing more than that. Other than that, I start Michael Thomas. Ted Ginn's maybe it's kind of your big play guy. I don't know that you can rely on Ted Ginn.
It is a revenge game for Ted Ginn.
That's true. He was a Panther.
On his journeyman career in the NFL.
Yeah. Would you start Saints defense? Would you start Saints defense?
No.
I don't think I'd start either defense in this one. This is an offensive game, I think.
I think this one might be a good shootout too.
I think both teams are run the ball well, and it's really hard to get turnovers and things, when teams are really good at rushing the ball. Both of these teams are great at running the football and stopping the run. So
all right.
It'll be a good game.
Over under on the total spread, 50 points.
Under.
So you think it's going to combine under 50 points?
Yeah.
I'm going to say over. I want to say they'll just get over it.
Next game. Mm-hmm. Rams at the Cardinals. Yeah, sorry, I'm chewing chips right now. I put too much chips in it. I was hoping a little more.
Rams Cardinals
combo from y'all.
It's at the Cardinals.
So at Arizona.
I expect. Larry Fitzgerald has 12. Got a huge number more. He has 12 more fantasy points at home than he does on the road. So start Larry Fitzgerald, obviously. Despite Rams having a pretty good pass defense. I think you can start Adrian Peterson because the Rams are second worst against the run, and they like to feed AP at home.
All right. Well, AP does have a neck injury right now.
Yeah, but
there's the potential of him missing this game.
Well, I seen Bruce.
They said he's a game time decision though.
Nedved said, "Do they expect him to play?" But
I mean, if he does,
If
I
he
don't.
plays starting.
If he does, me being the biased Rams fan, the Rams are known for shutting down AP. We pretty much were a brick wall in London when we played the last time. AP barely got over total 30 yards last time we played.
Yeah, second worst.
That was in London a few weeks ago. And we beat them 33-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to be biased
Now
in this
they're at
whole.
home.
Yeah, well, I'm still going to be biased. Rams, you're going to start Goff. Gurley, you're going to start. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about Gurley. Kupp is a start for me. Watkins is a flex play for me. No tight ends. You're not going to think about a tight end for the Rams. Defense is a start. And, of course, one of the top scorers in the league, Greg Zuerlein, you're going to start him. He's one of the best kicker in football right now.
I start Greg the leg. I probably start Kupp as a wide receiver too. I don't start Watkins because I think Peterson's been good and Watkins hasn't been. He didn't really show me a lot anyway. Goff, I think it's probably top 15 quarterback this week. Gurley, of course, you start just because he's a stud. He's the number one running back right now. And there was somebody I'm missing.
Reynolds?
No. I'll come back to it.
All right, well, what about Blaine Gabbert?
That's what I was.
Start. Oh, yeah, okay.
I was gonna kind of wiggle in and say Seals Jones.
Oh yeah, Ricky Seals-Jones.
Seals Jones.
Stream.
Does he continue this streak that he's going? He's on a nice little hot streak here.
Whenever he's in the game, Blaine Gabbert looks for him, so I say he continues it.
And Blake Gabbert's hot.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all y'all's points. I know Adrian Peterson was kind of the question mark, but I think if he's healthy, you play Adrian Peterson. I mean, I think you'd start him as a flex at least.
Yeah. I mean, he gets 20 carries at home, or more, 25 even. I mean, he's up there.
I'm the only one that always differs on AP. I think he's past his time.
Yeah, you can tell those legs are slowed, but give AP 25 carries. I don't care how old he is. He's probably going to turn out some yards for you.
Who would win this battle? Adrian Peterson or Aaron Donald?
Who is going to win the battle? I want to say Adrian Peterson. I got to go against it.
I roll.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's a tough one. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game for Adrian Peterson, but wouldn't be surprised to see a nice little 50-yarder, maybe a touchdown. I don't know, 60-yarder touchdown.
Let's go over under 60 points on the game.
Under because the Cardinals aren't going to score that much.
You think so?
Yeah, I want to go under, definitely. I'm with him. I don't think Cardinals are going to score.
I think this game becomes closer than you think. It's in the desert.
I will say it might be closer, but I still don't think there'll be a lot
of
points scored on.
Arizona's heating up. Their defense have played very good the last few weeks.
They did have the big win against Jacksonville, too.
I don't think they beat the Rams, but I think they give you a nice scare. I think it's a 20-27 ball game.
I don't think the Cardinals break double digits in points.
All right.
I want to say they break double digits, but I don't think they get past 20. I don't know. I don't see them getting over 20, 21, somewhere around that range.
I think Larry Fitzgerald gets a touchdown, AP gets one, and they kick a couple field goals, scare the Rams. Ricky Seals-Jones might even sneak in Seals-Jones for a touchdown.
He ain't going to get a score. But you're going to start him just because he's hot. That's the only reason why you're going to start him. All right. Fitzgerald you can play too. I mean, just because where he lines up at. So that's why.
Underrated. One of the most underrated receivers of all time. I mean, was he number 2?
I think so. Yeah, I think
I think he's 3.
Is he 3?
I think he's 3 right now still.
Mm-hmm.
I think what?
He's number.
Because number 1's Rice. Number 2 is it Moss?
No,
it's Chris Carter, isn't it?
No, it would have been T.O., I think.
Or is it T.O.?
I know he's number 3 in receptions. He's right behind Tony now.
Yeah.
Or he might have passed Tony.
Well, I know he just passed.
He's
Isaac
up there.
Bruce
He's
or something like
without
that.
a doubt
He's
the Hall of
top
Fame.
five.
Yeah, Hall of Fame.
Regardless,
receiver.
he's one of the best receivers.
He's one of my favorite receivers to watch the last 15 years. He's great.
He's up there for me. My favorite, you already know who my favorite was, Megatron. My top pick in drafts. I miss that guy. You're my boy, Blue. All right, Sunday Night Football now. We're here. We're
All right.
on Sunday Night Football. We're gonna let's get it rolling a little bit more.
Sure.
Eagles playing at Seattle.
This is my favorite game to watch, despite the Saints-Panthers game. Because it's a huge NFC clash. I mean, this could be, NFC championship. Could be a rematch if the chips fall where they're supposed to fall. Eagles are soaring. Seattle's defense is not soaring. Their offense is going through Russell Wilson. I think it plays into the hands of the Eagles. I think Russell Wilson makes magic because he's Russell Wilson. I don't think it's a pretty game for either team, but I do think the Eagles end up coming out and winning by 2 scores.
Okay. You start Wentz, right?
Yes, of course, without a doubt.
I would start Wentz. I would start Blount. But other than that, the running backs scare me for both teams, really. But I think Blount is a flex start for sure.
Yeah, 'cause you have to rely on the running backs to get a touchdown. If they don't get a touchdown, then you're hurting.
Yeah.
That's the problem with these Eagles running backs. You're dealing with the team that uses 4 running backs, 5. You got Blount, Ajayi, Corey Clement, Barner.
Yeah, that's it, ain't it?
Is that all of them?
I think that's all of them.
The small one's not playing. So
You just don't know who it's going to be, so.
you never know. I mean, last week it was Blount. The game flow, just because of how they were up, it went into Blount's hands. It didn't go to Ajayi.
Or, you could look at it one guy's going to be really good. One guy's just going to just kill. Or you could be like, hey, all these guys are going to be pretty decent, which also could be.
I know Ajayi's made some noise since being in the Eagles, but I don't think he's got more than 10 carries. So that's not a guy that I would really trust
if you're basing
now.
it off value,
if you're gonna
Blount.
pick an Eagles running back, it's going to be Blount.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Other players I like Alshon Jeffries in this one. I
do
think
too.
he's going to have a nice matchup. Zach Ertz, of course, you got to start him.
Yeah.
Nelson Aguilar, maybe a flex. I don't know. He's always a hit or miss guy.
I think it's his bounce back game. I think there's so much depth there. There's a lack of depth. I think he kind of shakes away for a few.
I like a lot of players in this one, though.
Yeah, I agree with all those Eagles players.
Yeah, I like all the Eagles players, but the running back is the only question mark in terms of who to start. It doesn't mean they're not going to play good. It's just you never know who's going to get the hot hand. And that's how the Eagles tend to play. So on the Seattle side of the ball, this is kind of like a train wreck to look at times with the running backs. Mike Davis is the running back that's getting a start for
I'll start any
Seattle.
of them. I don't care who it is.
No, Lacey, McKissick, and Mike Davis are the running backs for Seattle this week. Yeah, I don't like any of them either. Russell Wilson, you're going to start, so we're not going to go into detail on that.
And you have to start guys like Baldwin, maybe even some of us are even starting Richardson, but I don't think those.
I think Richardson's a flex play.
Yeah, you have to start Baldwin. I don't think he's going to do what you need him to do. Jimmy Graham is a starter, obviously, but
I honestly like Paul Richardson. I think he's been one of the most undervalued receivers this year, and I could see him being up to be a wide receiver too, honestly, in this one. But I mean, don't play anybody that's a running back for the Seahawks. But as far as receivers, you could probably play almost all the receivers for the Seahawks.
Start, sit, Seattle's defense.
Sit. I'm not feeling it in this one.
And so, what did you say the score was going to be for you? You're predicted.
This score?
You said what? 10 point?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's gonna say 14 over.
I'm gonna say Seahawks get the win on this one. I'm gonna say Russell Wilson. I don't know. Carson might not have as great of a game as everybody's gonna think. They gotta cool off sometime, don't they? I mean, if not, they're gonna be in trouble come the playoffs. I would think.
I'm 10-2. They keep rolling. I think it's a blowout win.
The Rams aren't in their streak when they play next week. The Rams are the streak killers.
We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. We already talked about the other day. I said the Rams are going to beat the Eagles.
I'm pretty sure we're still streaking, and y'all didn't beat us, the Vikings.
Oh, I think I called that game too.
Cheated.
About 30.
I don't want to talk about it. We bounce back. All right, Monday Night Football. This is going to be a fight because it always is. No matter who plays, when you're one of the top 3 teams in the AFC North, it's always a fight. So you got the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. So
This game, I'm just going to go with my feelings of the game and not really statistical fact. I believe that Big Ben is about to go in Cincinnati and light it up. Because Juju is a star in the making. Antonio Brown is a star in the present. Their tight ends is helping out. When they're on the road, they run the ball and they commit to the run. You have the best back in the league, in my opinion, overall. You run the ball, you get Le'Veon Bell excited, you work off that play action. Martavis Bryant's in the fold too, and he's kind of warming up. This team is hot right now. Their offense is hot. It doesn't matter to me that the Bengals are a division rival and it's in Cincinnati, and their past defense has probably been playing very well. I expect Big Ben to come in and throw 3 touchdowns and maybe 250 yards and beat the Bengals and just kind of move them out of their way.
I have Antonio Brown in one of my leagues, and this game just makes me nervous because I feel like anytime that, regardless of how well they do, one of your players can get knocked out immediately from this game.
Yeah.
I mean, Le'Veon Bell, every time he gets an injury, is against them, and we already know about the dirty hit to Brown. Mm-hmm. But I think you got to go with the three Bs in this one. Juju, I don't know if the rookie's ready for this one. This is going to be
That's interesting.
Yeah, this is going to be a hurt. It's going to be I don't know if he's prepared to deal with this fight yet.
No, I mean, he's still got it. The thing that's hurting him is he's still kind of suffering a hamstring injury a little bit, so it's slowing him down. I mean, even if he does play, this affects Martavis Bryant, so he's going to, Martavis Bryant is going to lose, targets. I mean, Bryant, he's a big play guy, and Big Ben will look for him or try to get him involved. But I just feel like, with the history of how these two teams play, it's always a low-scoring game. It's more of just a fight the whole time.
Historically speaking, I agree. I just think.
But I mean, like you were saying, I do like how I think Pittsburgh
is.
I think it's going to be a Pittsburgh game. I feel like I don't think Antonio Brown's going to put up the numbers that he has been putting up the last couple of weeks, but I think he's going to. I see 65 yards and a touchdown for Brown.
Yeah, I think you think Ben's going to light it up, but I think if he would even try to start lighting it up, the Bengals would try to take him out of the game, honestly. Yeah. That is, I don't know, that's a bloodbath every time they play.
Yeah.
All right, so AJ Green, sit.
Start.
Yeah.
Stud.
Yeah, automatically you got to start him.
Joe Mixon.
Devontae Adams laid him out last week.
Joe Mixon.
Start him. He's getting volume. He's finally got 20 touches.
Mixon's starting to kind of come into his own.
Yep.
And this is an interesting matchup, too. I don't know if you all followed the Twitter of Le'Veon Bell and Mixon. Le'Veon Bell does not like Mixon. Mixon claiming that he's going to be like the next Bell wearing number 26. So that's going to be an interesting matchup, I think, between the running backs. That's definitely that's going to add some more tension, I can tell you right now.
Might be some more motivation for Bell to come out and show out.
Maybe. I mean, he kind of needs it.
Yeah.
I know fantasy owners are waiting for that big Bell game that you're used to. I mean, he's getting the yards, he's getting the total yards, 100+ total yards usually, but he's not getting the scores as much as one would like. Andy Dalton, I don't even want to think about playing Andy Dalton this week. I just feel like I just go with where history says. He doesn't play that well against Pittsburgh,
and their offensive line has been struggling to protect him or open up holes. So I think this Steeler pass rush is ridiculous. TJ Watt is a freaking superstar in the making.
I just think,
gosh.
What is Steelers ranked in third in pass defense, I believe? I don't like the matchup regardless. Just I don't think Andy Dalton would have that good of a game against them, but I don't really see anybody having a mega superstar game in this one. I think everybody, you'll have, I think the 3 Bs will be solid, AJ will be solid, and Mixon, I think, is the only one who's got something to prove, whether or not he's going to show Bell that he can do everything he can. But that's an interesting matchup, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's 29 against quarterbacks. They're not that nice against quarterbacks and allowing points at all this season. So Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, who wins the game?
Pittsburgh.
I'm going to say Pittsburgh, barely though. I'm going to say maybe by a field goal or a touchdown.
Yeah, I would probably count this as 24-20, 24-21.
Okay, so over 30 points to combine. I was going to say over under 30.
I say over.
Over or under 2 players getting thrown out or knocked out of this game.
Ooh. Over.
I'm gonna go with the under just because I just want to I think it's gonna be there's gonna be one dirty hit and that's gonna be
Perfect.
Burfict.
Hands down.
That's about it.
I'm going to say 2 players. It's Burfict's getting thrown out, and whoever's coming back at Burfict's getting thrown out. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch that.
This has been like when you really look at the schedule though this week, it's a good schedule of games. This week, it starts off.
Yeah.
There's good 1:00 games, and I feel like the 4:00 games are easily watchable. And then the Sunday night football is a great matchup, and then Monday night football is. I'd rather watch the Bengals and Steelers play than the Ravens and Steelers. For some reason, I'm not. Excuse me.
It's just that matchup's been juicy lately because of Burfict and Brown and everything that happened in the playoffs last year.
I feel like because the last, I just feel like the Ravens-Steelers rivalry is just kind of overhyped and overdone at this point, and the NFL really tries to still force it down your throat. Now, if you're a Steelers and a Ravens fan, yeah, you're going to eat up on it and you hate the opposing teams. But I guess just me being that outside viewer of that rivalry, I don't think it's all that.
To me, with this matchup, though, I think this is the definition of a rivalry. Most teams consider themselves rivalries, but this is definitely, I think, Bengals and Steelers, they just hate each other. They really hate each other. Yeah. And you could think Burfict, honestly, taking out, Bell twice with knee injuries and knocking out Brown. You could thank him for bringing back the rivalry, honestly. But this is generally, I would say, the biggest rivalry in sports.
Yeah.
All right, so that ends our matchup talk, and now we can get a little something different that we haven't done yet because you can only do it really one time a year.
Yeah.
Is
look forward.
How do you prepare for the playoffs? So, basically, I'm gonna just throw this topic out there because I've heard other people talk about it.
Sure.
Do you go into the playoffs with 2 defenses? Yes or no, and why?
Previous years, I have just because of – I always look ahead to the matchups and see who they play week 14, 15, 16. That's your playoff matchups. If I have one defense that has, 2 great matchups in week 14, 15, and then they have just an awful one in week 16, and then you see another defense out there that maybe has an awful matchup 14, 15, and then a great one on 16, then you might carry 2 defenses. This year, just for example, I'm carrying the Eagles defense, and I'm confident that I'm going to start them every week and they're going to get me at least double-digit points. I dropped the Ravens defense just because they were on a bye week. I would start them in a heartbeat and keep them throughout the whole playoffs. I think it just kind of depends on what your matchup is going down the stretch and how your bench spots play out too.
Yeah, looking at the matchups, if I got the Ravens and Jacksonville Jaguars, there's no need to have another defense.
Yeah.
Eagles, if you feel scared about the Rams, then go ahead and pick one. But even the Vikings, even though they're not really producing, fantasy points, but they still got pretty good playoff matchups in a sense. There's a couple of them that have good playoff matchups, but I personally, this year, I'm not having 2 defense, but I would highly recommend it if you ain't got one of the top 5 defenses.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm at that point where I'm contemplating whether, right now I have 2 defenses at the moment. And I had the Bengals for last week against Cleveland, and the Bengals defense let me down. And then basically, I have the Rams as my other defense, and they both put up the same amount of points. What I'm doing now, or in my head, what I'm set on doing now is just rolling with one defense the rest of the way. It's not the best of matchups for the Rams by any means, because playoff schedule you got, let's see, what is it? So you got Philadelphia, Seattle, and then Tennessee. It's not the best stretch, but you never know how the Rams can play. The Rams can decide to show up and they put up the big points, and then they, might not.
Matchups like that, I think you might roll with 2 just in case you got to fall back. If you end up winning that week 1 and your Rams defense really lets you down, but you end up passing through, maybe you are more confident going with another defense that has, just more of a solid matchup. Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable going against the Eagles. They're number 1 offense right now.
Right, and then rest of the way, defenses there's a couple defenses in our league that's available that are top 10. ranked rest of the way. And right now, number 4 ranked rest of the way is Minnesota.
Yeah.
According to experts.
They're a great defense. They just haven't put the points on the board in fantasy.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, the Minnesota plays, they're week 14, Carolina. That's a tough game right there. But then you got Cincinnati and then Green Bay.
Yeah, 2 struggling offenses.
Right. So, I mean, that's a good, week 15, 16 matchup. It's just I feel like there's a lot of tough matchups week 14 for a lot of teams. No one really has a stellar matchup like the Patriots. That's a good first-round matchup defense to have.
Yeah, because they're playing against the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. And then Bills.
Steelers.
I would have said the Bills a handful of weeks ago, but the Bills' defense is not playing good anymore. And they would have been good to play against the Colts, but I think the Colts' offense is, when they have a better matchup, they play good against a struggling defense. And Houston Texans, if they had Deshaun Watson playing, this would help out a little bit too, just in terms of the Texans' defense. But the Texans' defense, has been struggling as of late too, because Watson's, not there. So I mean, and then Texans' offense is turning the ball over a lot more, which puts the defense on the field a lot quicker and longer too. At times.
Yeah, week 14 there really isn't I'd say Jacksonville is a great start, but that's just a kind of an obvious one. Because Seattle's going to Jacksonville. It's great. It's great pass defense.
I mean, Jacksonville's pretty much they got the best. They've had the best schedule all year in terms of defense, and they've proven everybody wrong. All the doubters that was there at the beginning of the year that hey, Jacksonville's the real deal in terms of defense.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville is just a must start, and Ravens to me are the most. If you got them two, you don't need another defense. Other ones, yeah, you might want to pack on a defense if you can drop a couple of guys.
So if you're playing, when you're looking at defenses, you're looking at defenses that play Cleveland, Indianapolis, Denver, Miami, Chicago, Houston. You want defenses that are playing them in the final stretch. San Francisco, maybe Green Bay if Aaron Rodgers continues to stay out. Cincinnati struggling. New York Giants, Buffalo, Tennessee. Those are teams you're looking for. Those are matchups that you want to look for your defense.
Yeah, and I think a reason I haven't dropped the Bengals defense yet is because of their Week 14 matchup next week against Chicago. So, I mean, I'm just kind of, I'm trying to, decide whether or not I want to do that. So that's pretty much on defense strategies. Yeah. Any other, like suggestions, ways to prepare you want to talk about?
I count from just really looking at matchups and matchups that you like week 14, 15, and 16. You got to stop and do your research. I'm just going to throw out some teams and just some players that I've just kind of looked ahead on. Cam Newton's playing at home all 3 games in your fantasy playoffs. That right there is, in and of itself, a pretty big deal. He's playing against Minnesota, which is a great defense, and then he's playing against Green Bay and Tampa Bay, which are 2 poor defenses. So if you can get through that first game, or even if you have another quarterback who maybe has a pretty good Week 14 game, Cam Newton can probably take you through the home stretch. But he's playing at home in all 3 games, and he plays great at home. So I think you feel confident with Cam. If you have anybody, Philadelphia, your 3 championship weeks, if you have anybody on their team, you're playing Washington at home, then you're going to Kansas City, who's struggling, then you're going at the Jets, who are kind of living on big plays, but that offense can definitely be halted. If you have anybody playing for Buffalo, they're playing Indianapolis and Miami the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, and they're going to New England. That game's not really that's not very interesting to me. Arizona, you have any Arizona players? They're playing at home against San Francisco, great matchup. They're going on the road to Washington. That's still a pretty good matchup. And then they're playing at home again against the New York Giants. That's a great matchup. Obviously, those are some bad defenses. Detroit players, you're going at Cincinnati, then you're at home for Tampa Bay and at home for Chicago. That's good for Detroit players, like Stafford, the whole passing game. Cowboys, they're at home playing the New York Giants, then they're playing Oakland, and then they're going to Seattle. Seattle's defense doesn't scare me no more. Those 3 games
are at home with Seattle.
They're at home with Seattle. None of those games scare me. The Giants and the Raiders and the Seahawks. If you have a Cowboys player, this might be the time to go ahead and
one of the strategies one of the strategies I like to use is I try to look at all my like real playoff contenders in my league, and like just because you got to pick up defense. Say you got a guy like Tom Brady, and then you got Carson Wentz for some reason as your backup quarterback. You're not going to need Carson Wentz or Tom Brady, whichever one you decide on based on the schedule.
Right.
But look around the playoffs, try maybe you want to keep one of those guys just to make sure the other team that could beat you with one of those guys doesn't get them.
Right.
So when picking up 2 defenses, kind of strategize on how you want to do that, or any other player going off schedule. Just make sure you're not dropping anybody that you can give your enemy the player to beat you with.
Yeah, you don't want to give somebody else that has a great matchup and a great player that's going to play against you.
You got 2 great tight ends, and you're playing a guy with no tight end. Don't go ahead and just drop him, because I'm going to tell you right now, that guy's going to pick him up, and you're going to regret it.
Yeah, scout all the playoffs teams before you go making lots of transactions.
Players I want to talk about. I just want to touch on running backs real quick. It's good to have depth. If you got top 2 running backs, like your top 2 running backs are top 5 round, first 5 round picks, you should be all right. But, it's that point of the season where you've made a lot of transactions. You had to pick up some guys. Injuries took fold. Like with me, Kareem Hunt is a wait-and-see approach type of guy. And also Leonard Fournette. Hopefully Leonard Fournette bounces back. It's a tough little stretch that he has. It's not too bad. I mean, he's got Seattle week 14, Houston week 15, and then the championship game, he's got the best opponent to play in San Francisco. Yeah. So it's just a matter of getting for those first 2 weeks. So hopefully you got someone that can pick up the slack that Leonard Fournette might not get, because he could get those points. And but if you have the Saints running backs, whew.
Yeah, if you got your superstars, you start them, and you're confident. Obviously,
you have to start your superstars. That's the thing, and this is where if your superstar is an older player in the league, I don't have the confidence in them. Example, skill players like Adrian Peterson, Larry Fitzgerald, because I don't think they're going to be consistent every week at this point in the stretch of the season. The young guys, Alvin Kamara has been the most consistent skill player in fantasy football right now, by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Wide receivers, you can your star stud wide receivers, your elite receivers, you can trust them no matter what.
You're going to trust Julio the rest of the way, no matter what? Let's just go through some players that have been up and down. Do you trust Julio no matter what?
Yeah, you're going to play him no matter especially after the game last week.
Without even looking at matchups.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I
do.
Do you start, let's say, a guy like Lamar Miller, who's a lead back on a decent team?
Matchup
based. Hopkins?
Start him.
McCoy?
Start him.
How about your boy, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to follow with McCoy. I just looked at his schedule. It's probably the best schedule.
Yeah.
Every fantasy
I know
player.
He's just been up and down. How about Hunt?
Matchup. Well, it depends what he does this week. It's going to be if he bounces back between now and
if he comes out this week, he comes out and he scores, he gets 70 yards.
He's a flex play the rest of the way if he doesn't do anything this week.
And he's got some nice matchups too.
Okay.
He does have nice matchups, but if he doesn't take advantage of the matchups, he's only a flex play at best.
Okay. P-Ran.
Matchups, yeah.
What do you think? Anybody who's been
Alfred Morris
up and down this season?
Alfred Morris.
I think you do until Zeke comes back.
So you think you can roll with him the rest until Zeke comes back?
He's only got 3 weeks, 2 in the playoffs.
Latavius Murray.
And they're playing the Giants and the Raiders. So yeah.
What do you think about Latavius Murray?
Yeah, continue to get those carries. I stay with him. Yeah.
Maybe a receiver like Tyreek Hill.
Matchups and wait and see. I think the same thing with Hunt, because that whole offense is struggling. It's crazy to have a team that talented that's struggling. It's kind of like the Falcons were before, a few weeks back. You were just waiting for it to happen and never did.
Tyreek Hill has always been even before this draft, I was just he's such an interesting player. I'm this guy's even before the draft, I knew this guy's gonna be a hit or miss. And he's not failed me yet, but when he hits hard. And when he misses, he's just going to break you.
Yeah, one running back I wanted to throw out there, Carlos Hyde.
I'm gonna have to start him. Me personally, I got Carlos Hyde.
He's still the workhorse.
Yeah, I gotta start him.
And I think no matter what happens, Garoppolo helps helps him just a little. He gets a little bit of a slight bump up.
Not really that deep, but I know I see he's got some tough matchups. So
Houston, Tennessee, then Jacksonville.
Tennessee's a great one.
Jacksonville's actually not that bad.
Isn't that bad?
Isn't the best against the run though. But they're like middle of the road. Houston's good against the run.
Pretty good against the run, yeah.
So that's a tough stretch to get. Just hopefully you got guys that can pick up the slack.
Yeah. Hopefully you can just play solid and your other guys will go off.
Right.
Sometimes you gotta go by your. It all depends. Sometimes you need those guys that might get you 10 points, and then hopefully your other guys get you 20.
Right.
It just all depends on how you want to look at. Sometimes you got to be safe, and sometimes you got to throw in a guy like Ty, or Tyreek Hill, like we were just talking about, that you need a big game from.
I was
You're
about
down
to
by like 40
that.
or 30.
You're right.
You're like, you need a big game from them. You might as well throw them in over somebody like I want to say like a Golden Tate, who will get you a good solid game.
Right.
But somebody like Ty or Tyreek, they can take over.
Blow it up, game. Yeah. So if you're 1 o'clock games or even 4 o'clock games are finished and you're down, it's looking like your projections are going down. You got a guy on your bench like Ty, like you were saying. You definitely want to get that high risk, high reward guy in just in case. Gets that big play could put you through.
Yeah, so another thing I want to bring up now too is what's important to get into the playoffs too is how you draft too as well. I'm going to kind of just talk about this quick because we don't have much more time left.
Sure.
But you draft. I think the smart thing to do is draft try to get a superstar at each skill position almost. Like for me, I had Antonio Brown with my first pick at 3, and then when it came back to me, I got Leonard Fournette. And then I kind of built on running back after that because I feel like if you get a consistent wide receiver was deep this year, and as it was like the previous years, it was a little bit not as deep as other years. Like it kind of fluctuates at times too. Like this year, running back was not as deep, and it hasn't really has been that.
I don't think running backs hardly ever are deep unless you have a rookie breakout soon.
Right.
But there might be some people who drafted very poorly or just had injuries.
Yeah, injuries or drafted poorly, and I'm
getting through.
Yeah, because sometimes people it depends how your league drafts. I mean, your league can draft like paranoid. You have there is guys that are paranoid in your league that draft, and there's guys that draft the same players that they know every year, and there's guys that will reach for a quarterback, and not think twice because and then when you do that, you miss out on a good skill player, and it happens, and you got to draft smart. I feel like you got to draft evenly in terms of skill players too, and that's what helps you out. And you got to look for consistency with these players too.
To follow up with that, I kind of do an opposite route of you. I do more of just draft the best player available. I don't really go by, in a sense, a strategy, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but I took 3 straight receivers. Now, granted, my third one was T.Y. Hilton, and that hurt me big when they announced Andrew Luck wasn't playing anymore. But I try to go best player available regardless because you can always wind up with certain players toward the end. But I mean, a lot of the times in the later rounds, it's mainly, honestly, luck as far as landing a Kamara, Alvin Kamara.
It's like with me, I got Kareem Hunt in the 11th round. And for the first half or for the first part of the season, that looked like the best steal of fantasy football ever.
Now it's looking more like Alvin Kamara or Adam Thielen, and it's just it just all depends. I mean, sometimes it can just be luck of the draw. I mean, you draft somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who's automatically, is a 3rd-round quarterback that's going to get you numbers, and then what does he do? He tears his shoulder. So it depends on a little luck, too. There's a luck factor in it.
And, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We're in week 13, so at this point in the draft really isn't going to help anybody at this point.
No.
So it's more like
but it's what you do with your team throughout the season, too.
Yeah, I think the waiver is the biggest way to build your team.
But you can't get too paranoid with the waiver wire like some people can.
No, you're just smart about who you drop guys that are struggling.
You have to be. I think the best word to do is patience.
Potential.
You have to have patience with it all.
You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. In a sense.
That's it.
You got some guys who were stuck saying that Terrell Pryor was going to come back and have a big game, and then some guys who cut him out early, and then you got other guys that will trade Julio, and next thing you know, he's getting 200 yards. I mean, it just all depends on how you look at it. I think some people right now are regretting not trading Kareem Hunt when he was hot.
The only other thought process I have for playoffs is this Week 13 playoffs haven't started yet. Between last week, you might see some teams building, so you might see some teams build on it next week, and then even into your round one of your playoffs. There are teams that are getting hot, and there are players that are getting hot, and you need to be aware of who they are. We'll do our best coverage to tell you who those players are based on our opinion. But I just want to note there's one NFC team, one AFC team that are getting hot at the right time, and that's the LA Chargers. There's a lot of players on that team that you can start, that you feel confident starting. And there's the Atlanta Falcons. And the last 4 weeks, they've just been building and building and building and building. And I want to see if they keep it up during the Saints. Just a player who was hot that I picked him up this week just based off his last 2 weeks is Seals Jones, tight end from Arizona, who was a converted wide receiver to a tight end. Guys like that could blow up and put you just over the top for your fantasy championship. So be looking for guys like that. If you have Seals Jones if you have a bench spot open, go pick that guy up. Go pick up some of these guys that are getting hot at the right time. If you picked up the Jets wide receiver, who am I thinking? Anderson. You're happy right now. This guy's getting hot at the end of the season, and he just paid off for you. I think he's going to continue to do that too. So that's another part of it. Look and see who's gaining momentum, because a lot of this, just the game of football itself, is a lot about confidence, building confidence, and that starts
with skill players. Though, at least study the trend of the last month of players. Look at their volume, look at their targets, look at their carries, look at their touches. That's the thing you want to look at. There's trends that happen. Like some guys, powder out, and some guys, are all in. Just appear out of nowhere. It's like Alvin Kamara for the last I would say 7-8 weeks maybe.
Since AP went away. Yep.
Yeah, since Adrian, pretty much week 5. Since week 5. Since week 5, it's just Alvin Kamara has been that guy, and it happened. You just got to look for that stuff. You don't know when it's going to happen, but you got to watch closely every week for that stuff.
A lot of it too is you got to look for opportunities. Like somebody like Alfred Morris. I mean, he just had a huge game that a lot of people might have just said he ain't going to do anything. They just dropped him. Or somebody like Kenyon Drake who took over for J.J. But one of the players I want to say, don't forget about Josh Gordon.
Yeah. And he's been a main topic on here because I've been beating the door down for people to pick him up because you never know.
Yeah, just see what he does this coming up week.
Keep some bench spots open for some of these guys. That's all I'm saying. But be patient with some of your guys too. Like if you have you have to be patient with Kareem Hunt just because you know what his potential is. How about I'm going to throw something that's maybe crazy. If you have 3 running backs that are we'll say semi-consistent. Let's say you picked up midway through the season Deion Lewis and Latavius Murray, and you have Hunt. If he comes out with a stinker this week, do you drop Hunt?
No.
If you need a second defense, or you need or Josh Gordon sitting out there, or maybe a Seals Jones, just one of these players that are getting hot at the right time.
I would drop a receiver probably. I don't know. I would just drop another skills player. Hunt. I have to keep nowhere. I'm not going to drop Hunt at all. I know I've thought about it. Well, actually, I've never thought about dropping him. I've only thought about trying to trade him, but it's too late for all that because I kind of missed out on the, the ride. A good way to trade him. But Hunt's a guy you got to keep. I would drop just a random other skills player in your team. I'm not going to, you got to just think smart on what you're going to drop. You can't just drop a guy just because he's playing bad because you know what his potential is.
I got a guy who's kind of more like that though. What about say you got your lineup's just full of running backs right now. You're kind of more hurting in receiver, and you got J.J. is your starting running back. Would you drop him for maybe a receiver? And say you got running backs like Orleans Darkwa, Latavius Murray, Kenyon Drake. Would you drop him for maybe you need a good flex or something like that?
I would drop Darkwa. Out of that little group that you named. I'm just saying if that was the running back group that you had, Darkwa would be the guy that I would drop.
C.J. Anderson.
C.J. Anderson I would drop.
You would drop him over J.J.
Yeah, because I think Booker's getting more and more involved in that offense, and they're starting to build
with Simeon coming
future.
back. I give it 1 week, and I'll give it a wait and see, just because that's like a sudden change in Simeon. He played great when Simeon was under center. C.J. Anderson did anyway.
See, these are the moves though.
And you don't know what Gino's going to do with Darkwa. You don't know what kind of. So
these are the moves that can just burn you, or they can help you.
Wait 1 more week and see
could come back and get you 3 straight playoff games with 200 yards, and that'd be awesome.
It's true.
At least just make sure you have 2 quarterbacks going into the playoffs too, because you never know how your league's going to be. Either the free agency might turn off, or trades should be off at that point. But I mean, just roll with 2 quarterbacks, because you never know what could happen. Even if you have a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers, you never know who can get hurt. Just make sure you have a quarterback that you can trust that can get you those points, because you don't want to end up having just Tom Brady, and the next thing you know he gets hurt, and then you're stuck having to pick up a Trevor Siemian or something like that. Get McCown while he's out there. So. All right. Well, anything else you want to add?
I think we got it. Covered it up.
I think I'm good.
All right. That's it for episode 14 of the Fantasy Football Wrap-Up. That's a wrap.
Wrap it up.